當會飛，我喺香港住咗30幾年。我係一個美國人，同時亦都係一個香港人，係一個白色嘅香港人。Well, in Hong Kong, I'm called a few different things. Probably the most common would be 外國人, which is not really foreigner, but foreign national is really what it means. And then the next one would be 鬼佬, which people translate that as foreigner. Some people translate it as a devil person or ghost person. But when people use that term, they don't think of that, even though originally that's what the meaning was. So I don't really like any of these terms. I prefer that no term is used to distinguish me from other people. It's like Morgan Freeman when he was somebody was talking to him about black actors and how he's a very good actor, but he says, why even distinguish it and why even say black actor, just actor. So I think that a lot of times people use a term to distinguish me from other people in society when it would be better just to not use any distinguishing term at all. Who we are and what we are. So the who we are, I think, is quite easy to explain. You just use your name and that's who you are. People go through identity changes, so I'm white. I don't think that's going to change. It's not going to change. I'm male. That's not going to change. Some people have changed their gender. That's a major identity change. But I'm not going to do that. So I'm white, I'm male. Those parts of my identity are going to stay there. I am American, but that's much less a part of my identity now than it was in the past, because I've spent more than half of my life here. And there's something called Stockholm Syndrome, is where the people who are captured or who are being harmed in some way by others then identify with their captors. And I'm not saying that I think of people in Hong Kong as my captors. It's not like they're holding me hostage. I'm here by choice. But the point is that the fact that Stockholm Syndrome exists, it shows how strong humans have this desire to belong to part of a group, that somebody could even identify with somebody who's harming them. And I think people who immigrate into a culture will either choose to try and assimilate culturally and linguistically, or they will not, and they will just spend time with people who are like them and also have immigrated into the community. That doesn't mean that I've lost my English-speaking American heritage, so I still identify with that. But at the same time, I also want to assimilate into this culture. So when people use a term like foreign national, I mean, what does that mean? Because if I were born in Hong Kong, if I had been born here and raised here, they would still call me that, and that wouldn't make sense. Guaylo is two morphemes, so you have two meanings, to say a prefix and a suffix, they come together to form a word. Now if you have a word like butterfly, nobody thinks of a fly covered with butter or inside butter. And so you wouldn't say that butterfly is really even two morphemes anymore. It would be a single morpheme. But Guaylo, it's more active, because you have Guaizai, which instead of person you have boy, or Guaimui, ghost girl, ghost boy, Guaipo, ghost woman, ghost man. And so it's a much more productive. In my presence, they're not calling me that, but they're referring to whites in general as ghosts, even using the measure word for ghost. And so it's a much more active thing than I think people want to admit, because every time I say I don't like the term, they say, well, but it doesn't really mean what it looks like it means, and nobody thinks that when they use the term. But very easily, and people make jokes about going to Lan Kwai Fong on Halloween because there are so many ghosts there, right? And they're referring to whites. And so people who say, well, Guaylo is not a bad term, it's still because it does separate you from the group. And if you identify with a group, then you want to be considered a part of that group and at the same time. So.